Welcome to the Finding Neverland podcast. We are Finding Neverland, a metalcore band that loves Jesus Christ, and we are here to stand firm in our calling of following, learning from, and loving the one we call Yahweh. Whether you're a fan of Finding Neverland music or just curious to learn more, we hope this episode has blessed you as much as it has blessed us. You can join us live every Friday night on our Facebook page. We hope to see you there. Y'all hear me?
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Cool.
oh yeah.
Oh, you got the professional mic going.
Yeah,
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
It's always better that
That's
way.
cool.
it took a while to put together this setup, so
That's awesome.
That's
trust
cool.
me. Yeah, we piece by piece, you know. I mean,
It looks good.
thanks. Yeah. So I got this set up over here. I actually have a second chair in case I ever had somebody else here, and then I have the bar set up over there where we do like all our teaching videos and stuff like that. So
Amazing. Wow.
Nice.
So
it's
cool.
amazing what you
Yeah.
could do in a basement.
Yeah.
I know.
Exactly. Yeah. So cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to start us off. I guess I'll introduce, this is Luke Weaver. This is our guitar player in Finding Neverland. Carl, so
What's
I
up,
wanted to
man?
introduce him to you. So
Nice
he's
to
in our
meet you,
band.
dude.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So to everybody listening, thanks for joining us. This is, we are so blessed to have Carl Thomas here with us. He is the founder of Live Free Ministries, and you formerly worked for XXX Church. Is that correct?
Yeah. I formerly worked for him, and now XXX Church is part of us. So
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so you guys like
Yeah.
merged
Nice.
together. Yeah.
yeah, we acquired him, but however you want to put it, yeah,
Oh, okay, I got you.
yeah.
Right
Cool.
on, right on.
Yeah, so we're just like really excited to have you on here. We kind of just wanted to, I don't know, it's kind of a impromptu discussion or whatever you want to talk about. I thought maybe Carl, you could share your story a little bit, or maybe where you come from, and we can kind of start from there. And
Right now,
Go
all
from
I
there.
want to talk about is the fact that my bracket's busted.
oh, mine
So-
too. Oh my
Did you
god,
just see Alabama just lost?
did they? Oh my. Well, I picked Houston.
She gone.
I picked
Houston's-
Houston. So
Houston's down by 10 points. With
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, so they're the last number one seat, so they might be gone too.
I think I kind of stopped
Ah,
following
no,
after
no.
I saw Purdue lose. And
Oh
I was
my
just
gosh.
like,
Yep,
I was just like, man, this is done. Like,
I
don't
had
even
Purdue
know
going to
what's
the Final
happening.
Four. That's not happening.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had them in the final.
Right.
I've never seen a tournament like this in my life. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's
Going
cool.
all
That,
out.
I forget you're a sports fan. So am I. So
Yeah,
that's
you
something
know.
yeah, diehard. Do you have a college team?
No, I like pro football, pro basketball,
Okay.
baseball. Not a fan of hockey. And college, it's like, with basketball, it's really just a field of 64. Then I get into it, but other than
Me
that,
too.
not really.
Yeah.
Technically, I guess you'd say I'm a Beavers fan, but that's a long story. Not because I went there. We have a guy who works with our ministry, who is the chaplain there, and a couple players, like professional players, used to go there. So we're just, so I guess I'm a
Nice.
Beavers fan, but whatever.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah, I've been excited about college basketball because I was at CU and they went to the tournament a couple times, but they always just like seem to fall apart like right at the end or of the season, and
Yeah.
you're just always like waiting for them to have like a good year and make it deep in the tournament, and it just never happens. So
Yeah.
hopefully things will turn around. So you
Like the
Philadelphia.
Broncos.
Yeah, Philly.
Super Bowl wasn't great for you.
No, I mean It was great
That
getting
was
there.
great.
Yeah.
It was great getting there, but
Okay.
the results weren't exactly what we had hoped for. But
No.
at
I know.
least
I
it
was.
got
Right.
there.
I'm diehard Broncos, so I hate the Chiefs, and
Yeah,
we're just sick of them.
I know.
yeah,
Yeah, me too.
oh, yeah. Them Broncos fans, man. I feel bad for you guys right now. Hopefully Russell can put it together because, ooh,
I feel
Yeah.
bad for us a lot.
Don't want to talk
Oh.
about
Every
it.
maybe this year, maybe this year.
Yeah, I'm excited with Sean Payton, new head coach.
Yeah,
That should be pretty cool. But
yeah. That's got to get better, I think.
it's got to. I mean, there's only way you can only go up from
It has to.
It
It
can,
has to.
that's true.
Yeah.
It can only get better. It can only get
Yeah,
better.
it's been.
Right.
I mean, this is the worst stretch for the Broncos in their history
Yeah.
since winning the Super Bowl.
Oh
So
yeah. That's what it
it's been
seems like.
terrible. Cool. So, did you grow up in Philadelphia?
I grew up in Jersey area, so
Right.
yeah, I've been here all my life.
Okay.
Probably gonna. I don't plan on dying here, but probably gonna be here. The master plan, not that, who knows, but the master plan is my wife, I think, retire. She's eligible to retire in 10 years from teaching because she started young. And we just got to do that because once she hits a certain age and, hits a certain thing, then she qualifies for the health insurance and the pension and all that crap,
Right.
So we kind of got to ride that out because if we gave up on that now, that'd be a major hit,
I know.
But then
Yeah.
after that, I can work anywhere. I mean, I can work from the beach. I can work from Starbucks. So,
amazing.
once
Right.
she's retired, by then the kids will probably be out of the house. And then our goal, hopefully, is to move somewhere down south by the shore, but we'll see.
East Coast.
Like Florida, something like that.
I don't know if I want to
Yeah.
be a typical,
Yeah, retired.
senior citizen in Florida, but you never know.
Right,
Maybe.
yeah.
I mean, but no, I mean, like Carolinas, Georgia,
Oh, I see.
they got
Okay.
some nice islands, and real estate's a little better there too than Florida. So we'll see what happens, but that's the
Yeah,
goal.
totally.
That's the goal. I don't want to be in Jersey, until I die, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right.
I've
The
never
politics
been there.
suck
cool,
here, man.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not much
Yeah,
better
I
here,
bet.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So how
it's
did
getting there.
how did you get involved in XXX Church?
Oh man, that's a story.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I struggled with pornography pretty much, all my teenage adult life. Got married, still struggle with it. Heard about XXX Church one time from a pastor at the church I was going to. Like, he brought it up as saying, "Hey, look at this." They thought it was a joke. Never really thought anything about it. And then the founder of Fireproof, they would say the founder of XXX Church, but Fireproof Ministries was actually the nonprofit that ran it. The founder came on the radio of a local DJ, kind of shock jock type, and he handled himself really well. And I was like, wow, it's kind of cool hearing a Christian pastor end up on this show, and they got to show him respect because he handled himself well. And I've always been that guy when it came to matters of faith, that I like to walk on the outside. I'm not I don't like to be in the box, right? So I like their approach. Read a couple books, became like kind of a follower fan of what they were doing at the time, which was a lot of outreach to like sex and porn shows. And I thought that was super cool. Meanwhile, again, I'm still struggling with porn. I never hit them up for any of their actual recovery resources, but I love what they were doing on the missional side. And then I actually ended up going to an outreach. That's a long story, but it was a God thing. Like, the guy that I went with the church as part of a church team, the pastor who at the time became a friend of mine. He kind of knew my deal, but I guess he thought I was past it and I wasn't. And but I went to the show. had a really meaningful conversation with something, kind of flipped the switch for me, like in terms of just my perspective on things. And yeah, and then I don't know, it got a lot easier to say no. And then one thing led to another. One week turns into 1 month, turns into 3 months, turns into 6 months, turns into a
Wow.
year. Meanwhile, I'm going to Liberty University to get a master's in theology, because I felt like God was calling me to do something in ministry, but I didn't quite know what.
Yeah.
Silly me, I thought I was going to be a pastor at some local church, but that never would have worked out. I would have got fired surely. So for sure, dude. But anyway,
Yeah.
going to Liberty, and then I came up with this. I was like, I saw Liberty did in their master's program, they did independent studies. And I was like, I think I can sell this. So I called. He doesn't work for him anymore, but I called one of the guys from Fireproof, who was like a higher up that I met at the show. And I said, "Hey, you remember me?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "Listen, I got this deal. I'm going to a master's in theology. I'd love to come out and like kind of just hang out, learn from you guys, serve with you guys, whatever. And,
Yeah.
see if I can get that run by the school as an independent study." And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then he said, "Oh, perfect timing. You should come out in May. We're going to be out in Vegas for the week. And we have a couple different things we're doing, like outreach. We're doing a training. That'd be a good time to hit it up." So I
Vegas. That's
contacted my,
ironic.
yeah. So I
Nah,
contacted my
yeah.
evangelism professor, who was super cool guy, this guy named Dave Wheeler from Liberty. And I sold him on the idea. I was like, "Hey, listen, go out there, independent study." It's because he was always all about going places where no one would go to try to, spread the gospel. And so he loved it. I was like, "I can't believe this," so then he ended up selling it to the dean, and they signed off on it. So, I went to Vegas for
Amazing.
credits. um, it was awesome. So I was there for a week, connected with them even more so at that point, and then ended up doing outreaches, like kind of being their contact point for outreaches in Jersey for a while, just volunteer basis. Then they came out with this small group program idea, and they just had one group, and they had like a few beta groups, but they all folded. They had one group with 5 dudes, and they called me up and they say, "Hey, listen, do you want to try to run this thing for us part-time? We'll pay you like 500 a month and see what you can do with it." And I said,
Wow.
"Sure." I was
Yeah.
still in the insurance business. I was like, "Sure, why not?"
Okay.
Jumped on that. That turned from one group to 5 dudes to, within a year, we were up to, I don't know, 15 groups, 300 people.
Dang.
And then I left the insurance business, and I was still working for them part-time. And then out of nowhere comes this full-time job offer. They said, "Hey, you want to work for us full-time?" I said, "Sure." So go to work for them full-time. It's all remote work. Um, and that's how I got hooked up there. And then after that, it's like just a crazy story, because I worked there for, I want to say 6 or 7 years. Quit because the work culture, like there was just some serious issues like with the work
Yeah.
culture, a lot of
Yeah.
toxicity. And so I was like, "Yeah, I'm done, dude. I can't do this no more." And so I
Right.
went into marketing, working for a parkour gym. I was the marketing was the CMO for a local parkour gym. And then I was doing some freelancing, still doing some side work for Fireproof slash Triple X Church, pay like piecemeal stuff. And then the guy that was above me, who was a big part of the issue, he gets fired for some stuff. We'll just put it that way. And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
and Craig calls me up and says, "Hey, would you think about coming back to work for us? And now you're running it." I said, "So, let me pray about it. Talk to my wife." For some reason, even though we thought, "Oh man, this is kind of a sticky situation," because I just left that place because the culture was so bad.
Yeah.
But
Right.
now I'm going to be running it. So I said, "All right, sure, we'll do it." We prayed about it and met with Craig and his wife, and then that went great for a couple of years. And then I could tell Craig was kind of like just losing interest in things. He was doing a bunch of stuff. And then I approached him about, "Hey, would you would you consider, I asked him what his plan was with XXX Church. He said, oh, I don't really know. I said, come on, man, you're a smart guy. You got to have a plan. And he said, well, maybe I could let you like actually run the whole thing. I mean, I would still be an employee. He would still be the CEO of the nonprofit, but I would not just run the day to day, but run everything. And I said, yeah, I'm down. Right. So that was the plan. That plan only lasted 2 months because over the next 2 months, it became evidently clear that it wasn't going to work out. A lot of friction between him and me with a bunch of stuff. That right around that time is when he decided to launch some new venture called Christian Cannabis. We won't even get into that.
Wow. That's the long
Dude.
story, huh?
Dude, you have no idea. So then
Wow.
that created more friction. He knew I
Yeah.
wasn't down with that. I'm like, hey, look, you can do what you want on your own, but that ain't my thing. And I think that got under his skin. So then he tells me that God spoke to him in the shower, and I guess it was God, but that he was supposed to pass the torch to this other couple. One was a pastor and a former porn star who came to know Jesus in Brittany.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the thing. He's like, hey, do you want to, I'm sure there's still a place for you. And I was like, bro, I'm out. Peace.
Right.
I was already working on things behind the scenes because I just had a feeling it was going to come to a head. And so I had like this backup plan because I had thought about this app, right? Like launching a community app. And I was like, listen, if things work out, I'll launch it with XXX Church. If things don't work out, I'll launch it solo. So things didn't work out.
What year is this, by the way?
That was 2019.
Okay.
And then, so, and then when I left there, we made a deal for me to acquire the small groups program that I had built because, to be honest, he didn't want anything to do with it. And the new couple, they didn't know anything about running it. I was the one who knew everything about it. So we made a deal for me to acquire it, launch the new nonprofit, acquired the small groups program. I mean, there was a cost to that. Launched the app, started building things. A year later, we launched a community for spouses, same sort of thing. And then the year after that, I saw XXX Church is dying on the vine, man. Like they hadn't put out a new blog in like 7 months. Craig was MIA. He was doing his own thing. And again, I'll just let that one go where it is. And the couple, they were pretty much piecing out and starting their own thing because it wasn't working out with them either. And so I hit him up. I had this like thought I was like, one night it just thought came, you should text Craig and see if he'll let you buy XXX Church. It's like, come on, man, that's bad pizza. That ain't happening.
Yeah.
And the thought kept persisting. And mind you, like, I don't know what your audience is like, but if I say something you don't like, just tell me. But like, this is a guy who like 3 or 4 months earlier, 3 or 4 months earlier, because of like a contractual thing that he wasn't holding up, I'm like emailing him about it. He's calling me a dick. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't really know if this guy's going to sell the ministry to this dick from Jersey. But dude, I texted him. I'm like, what the hell? Right. So I texted him like, yo, would you consider, he calls me that night. He's like, let's talk. And so we talk about it. And a month later we're signing papers, and then boom, now XXX Church is ours. So now it's Live Free, Small Groups Aligned, XXX Church. It's all under our ministry, and rest is history, man. So I told you it was a long story, bro.
Yeah, that's
a good story though.
Amazing.
It's a lot of up and down, man. A lot of up and down.
Sure.
I just never knew what was going to happen. Now looking back, a lot of stuff makes sense, but back then a lot of it never made sense. I was like, this is crazy. In fact, and I don't, I'm only going off of what I heard, from somebody who's reliable, but what I was told, this is the cool thing about how God works sometimes is, apparently he was in talks, Craig was in talks with another person, entity, whatever, who was willing to, pay him like, I think they were like a for-profit though, right? Like they were going to buy the assets. So a nonprofit can't sell itself. If it's folding, But if it's staying in business, it can sell assets because the assumption is it's still going to maintain its work. And so
Yeah.
he wasn't
Right.
technically folding the nonprofit, even though Fireproof's not really doing anything. It's still in existence. So he could sell or Fireproof could sell the assets to a for-profit company. And so this for-profit entity was going to buy it for a pretty good coin, like a lot more than I was offering. And he still went with us. So that tells you, I'm like,
Okay.
whoa. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool, man. But when I think about it, my head spins because I'm like so many things like this is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's
Well, a lot
really
of
cool.
opportunities to give up on it, huh?
Yeah, but like it's just also, I mean, I was just thinking about this tonight. I remember 3 months or 4 months before I actually left the second time. I remember Craig calls me up, or messages me and he's, hey, do you think we should shut down the small groups program? Is that really worthwhile? Is that really doing anything? And I guess he meant from like kind of a revenue ROI perspective. I was like, dude, it's not losing money. And even if it was, like, this is a great program. Like, this is, so it's crazy. Like, that was a program that they were entertaining on shutting down. And honestly, it's like probably the best thing we do. I mean, the app's
Mm.
great, but the small group program is, our hope is honestly when guys sign up for the app, eventually they sign up for a small group. I mean, it's not a marketing ploy. It's just, I know they'll get a lot more traction in a face-to-face small group.
Yeah.
But if they
Right.
just stay in the app and they make connections there, then great. Like, I don't really care. I just want people building connections and making relationships. That's all I care about.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Wow. Yeah. It's crazy how people could just change course of what they're doing. And that's
Yeah.
what I hear with your story is you've seemed like you've kind of, tried to stay steadfast with your, with your family and your faith. But we've seen a lot of people like me and Luke have also just like, man, they're all for God. And then all of a sudden, like maybe something just completely changes their mind. And you're just like, what happened with this person, or how did
Yeah.
the train get off the tracks, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah. And like, just, to clarify, I'm not ripping anybody. I'm just telling you what happened, but
Yeah.
Craig's pursuing his own thing. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
But whatever he's doing is between him and God, and however his faith has developed or undeveloped or whatever you want to call it, that's also between him and God. So,
Hmm.
but
Right.
I just
Right.
know what my job is. And I don't plan on changing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So now you have this app called
Yeah.
Live Free. And I was on there today, and it was really cool. You asked a question that
I
I
saw
thought
you.
was,
I saw you.
yeah, that I thought was that I'm so passionate about, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. So if anybody listening, there's a app. It's a community, right, Carl? That's
Yeah.
it's a community of
Yeah.
men's ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And so today you asked a question: what labels have you allowed yourself to be defined by, and
Yeah.
how has that affected your identity? And I was just like, oh man, I could talk about this for hours. Like I wrote
Mm-hmm.
a like a sermon song on identity, because it's something that I struggle with just all the time. And especially, I was thinking, especially with when we had a sin that we struggled with, or a sin that we currently struggle with, we wrap that
Yeah.
as our identity. And
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, I love that question, because one of the, my identity was wrapped up in, I'm an alcoholic. I used to drink. And then, once I was recovered, I'm like, okay, my identity is now I'm a recovered alcoholic. Like that's
Yeah.
who I am now. And,
Yeah.
and I still was feeling like miserable, like with myself. And, so that was just one of the things that I would talk about, is this, as like a porn addiction. You can, the shame and the guilt can kind of be wrapped on as your identity, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then even when you recover, um, it's hard to not just look at that as like your identity was a porn addict. I believe that we can move forward in Christ in a newness of life. And so we can, shed that identity of I was an addict, this is my purpose now. And we can kind of move forward from it. And that was something that I struggled with alcohol. So I kind of wanted to ask your thoughts on what you think of that.
Yeah, I mean, addict is like one of them really charged words.
Yeah.
I included that post. I don't know if you saw, but I included an excerpt from my book about that. It's in one of the chapters where I talk about, I think the subsection of that book is called, I think it's like labels are good for t-shirts, maybe. I don't remember, but
Okay.
yeah, like it's just this. Oh, wait a minute, what happened to my camera? Hold on one second.
I don't know. We lost
She
it.
gone.
Hold on. You know what? I messed up. Hold on one second.
We can still hear you.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. It's the audio is fine. It's just the camera needs to come back online because there we go.
There we
Oh,
go.
there it is.
It's a
Right
stupid
on.
Canon like this. So it has a 30-minute timer, and there's a way to work around it, but I forgot to turn it on. So anyway, I got
Oh,
another
okay.
30
Right.
minutes before it blacks out, but we'll be done by
Oh,
then.
all right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So label, like, addict is a very charged word, but and so some guys don't want to use it because they don't want to identify, quote unquote, as an addict, and then
Yeah.
some people take that word on, but then, like you said, they make it part of their identity. I'm a recovering addict, I'm this, I'm that. And all I said is, addict really is just, it's honestly a clinical terminology. I mean, it just describes the person's state at the time, right? Like they're dependent upon a substance and they can't break free of it. I mean, there's obviously it's more technical than that, but
Yeah.
it's just
Right.
it's just what you are at the time, but it's not who you are. Like I'm a pastor. That's what I am. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
Even still, I mean, the reality is I'm a dad, and that's hits a little closer home, but the truth is that's what I am. That's not who I am. And I think we get hung up on this stuff, and yeah, we take these. I see it happen in ministry a lot. I think it's one of the reasons why I think it's so hard for a lot of pastors to actually seek help for this stuff, because there's a lot of them that struggle. And I also think that's a lot of reasons why so many of them avoid the topic in their church to begin with, because of the hypocrisy they feel. But it's, I mean, I'm not saying all pastors, just trust me, I'm not bashing on pastors, but I think a lot of pastors, it's so much of their identity is wrapped up in the work. Like, oh, if I'm not a pastor, what am I?
Yeah.
And
Right.
and I think that scares the crap out of them. So it's like I can't give up my leadership, because if I'm not leading a church for God, like I'm a loser, and
Yeah.
and that's just not the case. I remember when I left the ministry the first time, like I had gotten it. I left the 17-year career in the insurance business. I ran an insurance agency and everything. And I was convinced, all right, ministry is my jam. That's where God's calling me. Pay cut and all, right? And
Yeah.
and then here I am quitting willfully. And I'm going like doing marketing interviews at like law firms and things like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a marketing guy. And but it didn't bother me. I was like, it's okay. I can serve God in any capacity. And so even with the parkour gym, for instance, like there was a lot of young guys that were like coaches there and stuff. And I just said, hey, if I have an opportunity to work with some of the guys here, it didn't really work out. But when I had my opportunities, I tried to recommend a book or, whatever. And it was just, serve God anywhere. I don't need to be a quote unquote pastor in Christian ministry to serve God. I can do it in any profession,
Yeah.
So it's just, I think, identity is huge. It's honestly it's the root cause, I'd say, or a lack of identity or a fragile identity is really, that's at the end of the day, that's the the core issue in some regards, not in all regards, but it's one of the core issues why guys and girls, go to things like porn and drugs and sex in the first place, or, alcohol in the first place. They have a really fragile identity. It's based on the wrong things. So
Yeah. Did and you could answer however you want, but when you were like working in ministry, were you struggling with porn? Did you ever have like,
No.
okay, have you seen people that are just like frustrated with, because there's a lot of people out there that are like, they're working in ministry or they're trying to get right with God, and they just are frustrated by this constant, like, I hate this part about me. I'm watching
Yep.
porn. I hate this about myself. Like, but I
Yep.
can't seem to stop.
Yeah, I
and there's like this guilt.
run into it all
Yeah.
the time. I mean, we
Yeah.
lead, we have groups specifically for pastors. I lead a pastors group, and the
Mhm.
guys in that group are awesome. And
And I've heard there's like, it's like, I don't know how true this is, but it's a high number of pastors struggle with pornography today.
yeah, I mean, who knows what the real number is? I mean, some people say
Uh-huh.
30%, some pay 40%. I don't know.
I've heard like 60, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't think it's that high, but it's a higher number than we probably want to give it credit for, to put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I've I don't want to say I've come around, but my thoughts have changed a little bit on that. I mean, I think if you're a person in ministry, especially in a leadership position, and your life is blowing up because of porn or anything, it could be compulsive spending. If your life is blowing up, you shouldn't be in ministry. Not because you're a bad candidate or a bad person, but because I think God's primary concern is your health. Like he wants you to be good,
Right.
and how you going to self-care, if all you do is spend your time trying to care for others. And ministry puts a lot of strain on people. The reality is, when you're especially a pastor, and so many people in church are looking at you, there's so much conditional acceptance and love and approval that you run into on a daily basis. That, if you do something the wrong way, you have people leave. If you say the wrong thing, you get a bad email. And like, those things are all huge triggers, for somebody, right? Because it's just the emotional fallout of just knowing that if you take one wrong step, half your congregation might walk out the door. Like, that's huge, right?
Yeah.
You got to be really stable and really solid in terms of who you are and what you're doing, I think, to be able to handle that type of stress,
Yeah.
And but yeah, I have guys in my group, pastors in my group, and the majority of them are all, I mean, they're doing really well. Some of them still have a struggle here and there, but I wouldn't tell any of them, be like, oh, you should hang it up, like, because they're seeking God. They are living with integrity, like they're being honest about everything. They're working on themselves. They understand their work in progress. So, but yeah, it's a common thing in ministry, and unfortunately, I think, like I said, because some people are so hung up on being in ministry, once they get there, they have a hard time thinking about the idea of, like, maybe setting it aside for a period of time while they get their shit together.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I get and that's really the answer to it. The really simple, but also not simple to the world, at least, or to most people. The answer is seeking God. It's a shame that the church is a little standoffish about these topics of lust and just what it can do to your soul, your mind. Just the way you perceive things and think about yourself. Do you have any light you could shed on why it's a problem? Because that's another thing. The world, especially, is kind of accepted that it's a part of our culture, and they go so far as to say, well, I'm not addicted to it. I can not watch it if I don't want to, and this and this and this. And in a way, I think about it in terms of alcohol, because I've struggled with that in my life. One could drink alcohol and still not be a slave to it. Is that possible with pornography, or is it your master no matter what? Is like, that's what the world wants to kind of seep its way into, that trying to consecrate yourself.
Anything can be too much, right? I mean, anything can become unhealthy. Like, I like a beer, not gonna lie. I like wine. I don't drink every
Mhm.
day. I don't drink in excess, but I like a beer. I don't think, I mean, Jesus, contrary to what my parents might have said when I was growing up, Jesus turned water into wine. He didn't turn it into grape juice. I'm sorry. That's just not the
Right.
case. It was
Yeah.
wine, people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for sure. Especially if you
They were.
understood the Jewish culture, like
Oh yeah.
when they came up and they said what was it, the head of the banquet, that basically the maitre d', at the time says, hey, normally people bring out the good wine and then serve the cheap stuff. But
Right.
you brought out the cheap stuff, and you saved the best for last. Like, no one would say that about
Yeah.
grape juice. Like, basically, what you're saying is
Right.
most smart people serve the good wine, and when everybody's blitzed off their ass, that's when they
Right.
serve the cheap stuff. That's what he was saying, right?
That's
So
what it is. Yeah.
it was wine, folks. But regardless,
Right. Right.
pornography is it's a unique one in and of itself, and I'd say if you're not a believer, or put this way, a lot of it's going to come down to your worldview, right? If you view sex as just, something to do, right? It's a physical act that feels good, and you can do it with this person, you can do it with that person, whatever. Then you're not going to see pornography as an issue if you just indiscriminately use it here and there, right? But even
Right.
most people that aren't Christians will say, oh yeah, if you're looking at porn and jacking off every day, that's a problem. Most people, not everybody. Um,
Yeah.
but if you have a worldview that, especially that is supposed to line up with the Bible, um, and you understand the purpose of sex, which is not to give us an orgasm, that's a side benefit, but to
Hmm.
bring us together in a uniquely intimate way with our spouse, then any porn is a problem, because you're basically ruining what God intended sex to be, right? So
Mhm.
a lot of
Hmm.
that's based on worldview. So yeah, I'd say that's the unique thing, in terms of being a believer, at least. Like, any porn is too much porn, simply because,
Yeah.
again, it violates, that marriage concept, that God, that, what God gave, why God gave us sex, right? He didn't give us sex just to give us a good time. He said, hey, I need to, here's a way for you and your spouse to unite in a unique way. And by the way, it feels pretty good, right? So,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, great answer. I just kind of look at it as and I've struggled with pornography, like not consistently, but like um, I noticed like with pornography, it's more about how I'm feeling, mentally than just wanting to have like a sexual release or anything. And so that's when
absolutely.
I've started to realize, like, the more I follow Jesus and search for God, the more the desire to want to watch porn just starts to go away.
Hmm.
And same with alcohol, like the desire just, I notice, starts to just seep away, and all of a sudden your impulses and your desires are changing, and that's the beautiful thing, I think, about um, building a relationship with God is not even just like, oh, I'm looking at porn every now and then, but I'm starting to just not even want to have that desire anymore.
So let me ask you a question. I'm not trying to trick you, but I'm just curious what, like, um why, because I think a lot of Christians, like, if you push them on it, they wouldn't know how to answer this. That's just my suspicion. But why do you think it is that the more you seek God, the like, at, because this is something I run into all the time. Oh, I'm reading my Bible more, I'm praying more, and for some reason I'm struggling less. Why do you think that is?
Um, well, like kind of like what you said, I'm starting to understand like what, like my heart is just changing towards it. I'm starting to understand, you know. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Why do you think that is, though? Like, when you say
Um,
my heart's changing, what do you mean?
I mean, just by the basic, like, repenting, right? Like I want to repent from that sin, and I'm starting to um I don't know, like I just like what you said about like viewing sex in a different way,
So
right?
so here's this. This is something I'm working on, because I think it's going to be a book at some point.
Sure.
This is something we've been really digging into, but the funny thing is, I think if you pull the, and I'm not trying to, you know, like put you on a spot. I'm just saying, the answer you give, I think, is what a lot of Christians would be. You know, it's like, well, if I, you know, he's changed my heart, but like at the end of the day, I think with most Christians, if you push them on that, you just keep going. But how? But what does that mean? But you know, they're going to finally come down to some sort of, I don't know. I just think, you know, it's like the spiritual equivalent to like pixie dust, right? It's like, I don't know, God just changed me, right? Like that's, if you push them hard enough, a lot of times that's, you get their back against the wall. It's like, I don't know, God just hit me with a wand. And, you know, like, I'm not making fun of you, but I'm just saying, like, I think that's typically what we think, right? In the Christian
Right.
world is like, well, if I seek
Yeah.
God enough, he rewards me with like a spiritual lobotomy and I'm good. And I think that's honestly what you hear.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Well, I
The f-
think, yeah, I feel
but-
like I'm starting to, with my behavior, I don't want to live in a behavior of hurting God more than, I'm not worried about like my own self. I want to live in a way that God wants me to live. And
right. But let
Yeah.
me see, here's the thing. So this is a long story, so we're not gonna get into it too deep, but just to
Sure.
give you something to chew on, right? So we have as human beings, we have a 3-part brain, right? The lower part, the low brain, doesn't really matter much because it's basically the same brain that a lizard has, and we don't really access that too much. But you know, lizards are very simple creatures, right? Everything is low brain driven, which means every decision they make is driven by basically survival, right? If they're hungry, they go eat. If they're cold, they get warm. If they're hot, they go cold. If they see a predator, they run. Everything is physical threats, and when there's a physical threat, there are 3 responses are very typical, right? It's fight, flight, right? Or freeze. Typical, right?
Yeah.
Mammals, so a dog, right? Dogs, same thing. They have a midbrain, and we do too, right? We're mammals. We have the same midbrain pretty much. Midbrain's very much like the low brain, very much. The difference is the midbrain factors in emotional threats. So now it's like a lizard doesn't care if he's lonely. He doesn't care if he's bullied, right? There is no bullying in the lizard world, right? But
Yeah.
dog, like mammals care, right? That's why you see mammals in packs and herds and pods, and like healthy mammals typically don't exist solo, right? They need connection because connection makes their midbrain feel safe. And if they feel safe, they can just do their thing, right? Like my dog can just sit on the couch and enjoy the sun, right? But when they're lonely, when they get separated from the pack, danger, right? That's survival now. Now I have to, same 3 choices: fight, flight, or freeze. So again, we're humans, we're mammals, we have the same midbrain. We also have a high brain. Now the high brain is all the stuff you're talking about. It's my love of God, it's my priorities, it's my passions, it's my all that stuff, right? The ability to plan, right? Like your dogs don't have moral agency, right? Like there's no such thing as an immoral dog. They just do what's natural, right? It's instinct, right?
Yeah.
But humans, we have morality. However, all that's high brain function. All of it's high brain function. Porn use, like, and I'm not saying like a guy's just, I'm not saying in all cases. I'm saying in the situation we're talking about, where it's a guy's going to porn, but he doesn't really want to, right? Like you're Paul saying, I don't understand why I keep doing the things I don't want to do, and I don't, you know, you're that guy, right? Which describes most of us at times in our life, right? It's like I don't understand. Like I want to do the best. I want to do what I can for God. I want to live by my values, but yet I keep doing this dumb crap.
Yeah.
Why is that, right? And so porn is a midbrain freeze response at the end of the day. That's what it is. It's not fight, it's not flight, it's freeze. It's basically detachment. It's where our midbrain doesn't know, you ever heard of a, like, why am I blanking here? Catatonic, you know, a catatonic state, you know what that is, right? So like when someone experiences extreme trauma, they just sit in a room, they don't say anything, and they just stare at a wall, right? Catatonic state.
Oh, yeah.
That's the brain shutting down. That's a freeze response. It's like the brain's literally saying, I don't know what to do. And so my only option to survive or my only solution for survival is do nothing, like just shut down, right? Porn is a freeze response. It's a detachment response. It's basically our midbrain solution for, I don't know how to deal with this difficult emotion or this difficult situation, so I'm going to detach through fantasy. It's a midbrain response. Again, midbrain not morally not morally relevant. Midbrain doesn't care about morals. It cares about survival, right? So when we go through trauma, when we go through abuse in our life, when we go through detachment in our life, when we have all these things happen, you know, you talk to anybody, especially who deals with pornography, usually there are a lot of things that happen either in school or parents or whatever that really mentally messed them up, right? And our brain, especially our midbrain, it learns to experience. So if you've grown up expecting the world to be an unsafe place, in other words, if you've grown up in a situation where you never felt really connected to people, your parents or friends, right? Or you felt like your sense of connection was fragile, right? You felt lonely a lot, those sorts of things, right? Your brain learns over time that it becomes convinced that the world's an unsafe place, right? Because separation means danger for our midbrain. It's danger. So we grow up, and when we face difficult emotions that trigger that panic alarm, our midbrain takes over because we go right into survival mode. And it's like, I just gotta survive. And how do I survive? I escape. Our midbrain doesn't care about what we believe or what we plan or what we want. It just cares about surviving. Right. So think about it this way though. And this is what I think is, like I said, this is gonna be a book, but when you look at God, right, and it's like, read your Bible, pray every day, all this stuff, right? I think the world and even a lot of Christians look at it and go, I don't know, why does God give us all this busy work? Like, was he bored? Is this just how we prove we love him? I guess I'll do it, right? But you think about it, like, what do you do in a relationship? You talk, right? You meditate, you connect, right? It's connection. If you read the Bible through the lens of connection, you'll see that the entire Bible, the gospel, everything is a connection story. God created us to be in communion with him. Sin broke that connection, right?
Right.
God sent Jesus to reconnect, to make it possible that we could reconnect with our Creator. When you look at the Psalms, and like, how many times does God talk about being our rock, our fortress, our safety, our place of safety? Safety is woven throughout the Bible, right? In the New Testament, perfect love drives out fear. What drives our midbrain? Fear, right? Who gives us perfect love? God. Do you think it's any coincidence that when you're trying to connect with God, who is the absolute perfect source of love, which drives out fear, right? Who is our fortress, who is the one that wants to connect with us, who always accepts us no matter what. Do you think it's a coincidence that when we connect with him, we start making better decisions? No, because we don't feel the danger. We feel safe.
Right.
So now we're free to let our high brain start kicking in and going, hey, you know what? That sounds fun, but it doesn't line up with our values, so we're not going to do it. Right? High brain can now have a say in what we do because we're not feeling on edge. But when we're detached or I mean separated and isolated and disconnected from people around us, man, we don't have that luxury. We just do what we do to survive. Most people don't realize that. I mean, like, there's exceptions to the rule, but we want to demonize pornography use or this or that. Dude, it's survival. That's really what it is. It's survival. It's a bad choice for survival. But it's what our brain has come to realize. Like, this is a survival mechanism. This is how I get through life. When I don't know what to do, I can do this, and that'll keep me safe for the next 5 minutes, for the next 10 minutes. Right. So
that's also like the way that the lie that pornography gives you is like, oh, it's easy access to beautiful women, and you kind of like, you're brainwashing, right? It's almost like you're brainwashing yourself into getting this like connection with, I don't know, beautiful women at a dime, right?
Sex makes us feel good, right? I mean, the dopamine and the neurochemicals that get released when we have an orgasm, when we look at porn, when we look at naked women,
Yeah.
it creates a very euphoric effect for us. So, the reason, and without getting into too much more, but the reason the brain sees pornography as a great survival mechanism is because of the euphoria it creates when we engage with it, right? Like if you looked at a
Right.
naked woman and you didn't get that dopamine rush and you didn't get that euphoria, like we want to look at naked women, we go find something else to do, right? Like our brain needs to be stimulated with something, right? And sex is very stimulating. So,
Right.
and pornography serves it up cheap. So it's an easy go-to,
Yeah.
but porn's not the problem. It's just a really bad way
Right.
to deal with our problems, but the problem is we're we it's a mental wellness. Like we're not connected the way we need to be. That's why apps and small groups and the things we do, that's why we're so focused on that, because we know that, yeah, a course is great and a book's great and counseling is very good. Don't get me wrong. I think you really need counseling is great for anybody. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, the thing you need more than anything in the world is connection.
Right.
Connection is everything.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think it's what are we lacking when we have all of this instant dopamine on hand with smartphones and media and everything that we consume daily with apps and social media. It's disconnection from actual meaningful relationships, and
Yeah.
it's a fantasy, like you said, escaping in fantasy, and it just gives you that much more of an option to escape.
Yeah. And for
There's
some people,
different
it's
ways to
not that.
escape, but
Yeah. For
yeah,
some
you're
people,
right. You're
it's
right.
eating. For some people, it's gambling. It's just
Yeah.
sex is tremendously powerful. It's a tremendously powerful, like
It's
I
one of the
said,
most powerful.
yeah, it's a drug in many ways,
Yeah.
and God
Yeah.
created it that way to be powerful, right? Because it
Right.
powerfully, in theory, should unite you with your spouse. Like he created it like that. But like anything else, like something that's good can be bad when we abuse it, or when we don't take care of it, or when we don't um recognize its place in the world, right? So
Yeah.
that's really what we're talking about. So it makes sense that, like you're saying, oh, as I seek God more, I'm making better decisions. And lot
Yeah.
up here you're going, yeah, the reason I'm not doing it is because I'm repenting more, and I'm thinking more about God and pleasing him. And I would agree that, yeah, that's the reason you're choosing not to do those things, right? Because you're thinking, right? But the reason you're in that place in the first place, where you have the freedom to think and make rational decisions and make moral decisions, is because you don't feel like you're in danger, because you're
Yeah.
connecting
That's
with your
great.
creator,
Yeah.
right? If you weren't connecting with your creator, you probably
Right.
wouldn't have those thoughts. I don't know about you, but
No.
I know
I mean, I
for
know I
myself.
definitely never did before.
Well, I mean,
Mhm.
think about, like, I'm sure with alcohol, I've never been an alcoholic, so I can't speak from experience. I can only speak from experience with porn and sex. But I mean, how many times have you acted out in one way or the other, and like had like almost like an out of body experience, where it's like you're almost like watching yourself going, "What the hell are you doing, dude?"
Yeah.
But you can't stop,
Mhm.
right?
But
That's
yeah,
like,
and it was
A
also tied
lot. Yeah.
to being very lonely too, like you were saying. Like it was just
yeah,
like
it's bro, it's all
I
connection.
became to the point where I didn't even want to drink around people. Like it was like, why would I do that?
Mhm.
Like I don't even
Mhm.
need to do it socially anymore when I
Yeah.
could just,
There's
I'm
no
Yeah,
feeling very
point.
lonely or I'm very sad, like I'll just do it by myself.
yeah, that's the killer, right? Is that this stuff
Hmm.
drives us into more isolation, because we feel the shame that it brings on. And
Hmm.
isolation is the exact opposite thing that we need. That's the problem, right? So it's like
Mm.
we make the problem worse. We isolate, we pull away from people, we pull away from relationships, and we become even more disconnected, which means
Yeah.
we need those things even more, right? It's it's
Ah,
crazy,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
a
Good
human
stuff.
condition, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just, I think, unfortunately, again, and not bashing the Christian world, because I keep saying it, but we don't we don't we don't look at the big picture enough, and we look at this, we I don't want to say we over spiritualize, but we talk about the spiritual, quote unquote spiritual stuff so much, and we ignore the other stuff. And so it's confusing, right? Because again, like I said, if you're a Christian guy who and you're thinking to yourself, I know myself when I struggle with this hardcore, I used to think to myself, I actually went to a pastor one time and I said, I didn't tell him what I was dealing with, but I just said, yeah, I keep doing dumb stuff. Like, am I a Christian? Like, I literally didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Right.
like, I can't be a Christian because the Bible says I'm a new creature and I'm doing the same dumb shit. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't be, no, you totally can be. Like, you can totally love God. You can totally want to serve him. You can totally want to be done with the dumb stuff you do and still do it. Now, it's not good.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
excusing it, but there's a neurological reason that's happening. And until you take care of that problem, which is getting connected, learning how to attune with your emotions and things like that, learning how to connect with your value system, you're going to keep struggling. Simple as that.
Right.
That makes sense.
And so,
And that gives
Carl,
a lot
you
more
said-
explanation.
Oh,
to it.
man. It did it
Oh,
again.
there, win again.
Hold on. Well, at least we know, like, it's pretty easy for me to turn it on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There we go. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll never do that again. I'll make sure I turn on the I got about 5 more minutes, but
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to be conscious of your time. But you also, so you do pastor at a church out there in New Jersey?
no.
Oh, okay.
No. Just me and a friend of mine who's a therapist, who's like really active in the ministry. He's actually going to be in next month's recharge, which are those monthly teachings we do in the app. Steve Luff. But we were talking the other day, and he said, I said something about being a pastor, and I said, yeah, but I'm not. I mean, I don't pastor a church. He's like, you don't? I said, well, no. He said, but wait a minute. Like, what do you think you do? Like, you have a community of over 1,000 men.
Yeah.
Who communicate
yeah.
daily. Like, what's more church than that? Like, because that's what church is, right? It's community.
Yeah.
Like, what's more church than that? I mean, honestly,
Right.
and I was like, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, honestly, what we do in that app is probably more church than what some of these guys do every Sunday.
You're right.
Oh, definitely, especially with the connection piece, right?
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to the
same.
same thing with God. It's like, why do you think he was so insistent upon us gathering together?
Mm-hmm.
Again, is he just giving us busy work? Does he just want like a bunch of Christians to hang out and, sing Kumbaya? Or do you think
Exactly.
I don't know. You think
No,
he's
you're
like
right.
give him credit for being a little smarter than that, right? Like he knew, right?
Yeah.
He knew he knows what we need to be healthy and to feel safe, and to operate the way we're meant to operate. He knows what we need. He knows we need connection.
Yeah.
So he tells us, hey guys, stay connected.
Yeah.
And we're the dummies that say, nah, I think we'll pass, and then we wonder why life goes sideways because we're not connected.
Especially during COVID.
Yeah. You think, look at all the craziness that happened during COVID, after COVID, and still is happening. Why do you think that's all there?
Open the door.
Lack of connection, man. It's really bad. It's not good for us.
Yeah. Well, Carl, beautiful.
That gives me a lot to think about, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. I thought I wanted to give you.
That's why we wanted to
have
have you on. You want to get our brain going and tap into some of that stuff.
That was some good stuff.
Yeah. So how do we? I guess before we let you go, how do people get on the community? Where do we find that?
We have a bunch of websites, but honestly, links to everything. So links to the Live Free community, links to our small groups program, links to the book, links to all that stuff. You just go to XXXChurch.com and it's all right there on the homepage. You don't have to go searching for it. It's like all right there, right down the page.
Awesome. And I'll put
Nice.
I'll put the links in there.
Yeah, that's the easiest thing to do. Just go there and you'll find everything you need. Anything you want to look up right on the homepage there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, that was awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, Luke. We gotta get you in the community app as well.
Oh yeah, I have to check it out for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just send me your email, Luke. I'll send you the same invite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Awesome.
cool.
Yeah, cool, man. Thanks for helping me on. I gotta get you information for social, right?
Oh yeah, yep, yeah,
Yeah,
for social
I'll
media.
connect you with our social person, so you can, like I said, promote or whatever you want to do for us. I appreciate that. And thanks
Yeah,
again for you
Oh
guys
yeah,
reaching out to us in the first place. But yeah,
absolutely.
love being on with you and just
Enjoyed it.
chatting.
yeah. Thanks so
Now I'm gonna
much. Yeah. So, how many kids do you have?
two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So my daughter comes back
Nice.
from senior trip tonight. I'm excited because it's been a week without her, and I'm like
Amazing.
not looking forward to the fall because she goes to college, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this was just a week.
Right. That was just a week.
Yeah, my son's 15. He's at a fun age, going to gym all the time, and he's a good kid. So yeah,
Same.
so I got two kids,
Nice.
one dog.
Yeah.
That's it, and that's all we need. So we're good.
Beautiful. Well, Carl, thanks.
Nice.
I appreciate it.
Nice.
Go spend time with your daughter.
Yeah. Well, she doesn't
So,
get it till 1, so
oh
it's going
wow.
to be
Okay.
for the
That might
next
be
couple
tomorrow.
hours. It's just going to be like staying up, and
Yeah.
probably watching
Yeah.
more of my bracket fall apart.
Yeah.
It's something to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just like, oh, check off another one. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
So
awesome.
good meeting
Well,
you guys, though.
Well,
Yeah,
cool,
stay
yeah,
in
dude.
it's good to
touch.
meet
Yeah,
you.
good meeting you too, man.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so
stay in
much for being
touch.
on. Yeah, we'll stay in touch. We'll team
We
up.
definitely will.
We love
All right,
everybody.
cool.
Thank you guys for listening. Carl Thomas with Live Free. Till next week. We'll see you guys.
Later.
Right on.
Later, guys.